Hello and welcome back to the HandToolery. I'm Andrew Malacy, and today we're going to be dovetailing the top rail of the sideboard. And just to let you know, I did some skipping in this series. I didn't show you the side rails there, which will be frame and panel construction. I don't think it's a big deal because it's just more forming tenons and running grooves with my Stanley 45, so I didn't want to bore you just showing you another video of the same stuff I've already done. So when I had this middle rail here, the one I just spread, when I had it out, I marked on this top rail its length based off of the tenon and the tenon shoulder. And so what I did is I just spread this out so it's flush along the front, so it's straight on the front because it bowed in a little bit over time. And when I line up, because I've marked on both ends, when I line it up, my marks are perfectly on, so that's good. When I unspread it, whenever this thing bows back in a little bit, the joint gets a little smaller. And so at first I was going to have to cut this smaller. And then I remembered that this is coming in just ever so slightly. And it made all the difference. So it pushed everything out just the tiniest little bit. The joint in the front here is really, really tight now. And everything just looks really nice. And I'm happy that my marks are on. So what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'm going to cut the dovetail on the front, and then, which is why I cut off the top. So I'm going to cut the dovetail on the actual piece here, the tail, and then I'm going to work on the pin. Well, I guess it would be technically the pin, but work on its mating joint here on the top of the leg, which would be the pin side, I guess. Now, when I only have to do one dovetail like this, like a sliding dovetail, rather than using a specific ratio, what I prefer to do is just mark center on it, and then mark an equal distance away from that center on either side of the line at the base, and then equal distance, a larger distance at the top, and then connect the lines to make an angle. Whatever looks good and leaves me enough room to be able to saw it away and leave material for the socket or the pin. I put a light here, and I'm going to go ahead and start making my cuts. Focusing again on the squareness more than the angle. Now, by the way, being up this high is not ideal, but it is what it is. So I'm going to actually sort of prop myself up a little higher, get myself higher off of the floor, get myself higher at a better angle with this stool I have. So I'm sort of standing on one of the rungs. I'm going to adjust. There's the first one. Really pleased with that. I got it all squared across. Took a little bit of cleaning up because of some sawing on my part. That was pretty awful, but hey, you know what, whatever. Now I'm going to start on the other side. Now that I've got both tails of the dovetails cut, I'm going to bring it on over here and make sure I'm oriented correctly. I'm going to do each side at a time. I'm not going to try and set the whole rail at once. And I'm actually going to use a little bit of a help here. So I'm going to remove my clamp and I'm just going to set it right here. And so what I'll do, I'll pull the piece right up against this, and then I'll be able to lock it down a lot easier. You can use a knife, like I'm doing. Or you can use a pencil, as long as you get in the corner there. All right. I'm going to come back and just fill this in with a pencil so I don't lose it. Here's what it looks like when I bring the piece up to it. It rests against there, and then I just make sure my shoulders are touching the edge of the piece here. So it'll mate up nicely like that. Now I'm going to move this. I'm going to move this little piece here over to the side and do the same thing. Now I'm going to transfer my lines down. So next what has to happen is I'm going to take out this top rail here, this middle rail actually, and then I'm going to use my dovetail saw to cut these angles right here for the pin side. So if before we had to keep square across the thickness, now we've got to keep perpendicular across the height. It's got to be plumb. That's the other critical operation in making a dovetail. So your pin side has to be very perfect vertically. So I've cut inside my lines here, left the weights to the outside, and now I'm going to do is I'm going to extend the kerf down, as if you've seen Rob Cosman make dovetails, half blinds. He uses a tool called the kerf extend, or X10, but it's just extending the kerf down. And he uses just a saw blade with a handle that he hammers in. And I have an old Gen saw that I don't use anymore, another one, and I just extend it like that. I've taken the thing apart. I've got these down. It's over my leg, which is right here on the bench. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to establish my line on the bottom, just using a chisel here. This one doesn't have to be perfect, but I want it to be nice. And essentially I'm just going to do some proper chisel techniquing here and just remove this material. As you can see, that went pretty quick. I'm very close to my lines, and now it's just a matter of fitting it all. So I'm really pleased with that. All right, so here's what it's gonna look like. And it's close. It's definitely not gonna go first time though on this side. It's, oof, I can see it spreading. But it is gonna be very close. So I gotta clean up that, I can see right now. With this, you're gonna wanna be really careful because you can get out of control quick. So just take very slow, deliberate cuts and go from there. All right, I've done the cleanup work. This is gonna fit, and I'm not happy with the fit. I don't know what happened, but I definitely messed something up. There's a gap right back here, and I think it's because there's a gap down there. The things are kicking are slightly out, but fits in nice, good pressure fit. It's a little bit of a gap on the back there, and there's a gap on the back shoulder, and I think it's out of square. So the front looks fine, really fine actually. And then if I toe it in on the bottom, it looks fine. Then the side over here, sort of the same thing. There's a gap that appeared. I don't know. There's the dovetailed top rail. It's a nice tight fit right there. On top, as you can see, not exactly my best work, but it'll do. Here, there's a really not nice gap there. Something's pushing it out and I'm going to figure it out, but go from there. All right, and so here they are all cleaned up. This isn't going to be the exact final of it, but that looks much better. So yeah, this is a huge step for me in this process. It means that I've got the main structural components done. All I need now are all these dividers. There's going to be 2 dividers here, 2 dividers that are larger on the bottom, and then the side panels. And then I'll pre-finish and glue up.